In this video, we're going to take a look at the 7th race condition lab on Portswigger's Web Security Academy, which is called Web Shell Upload via Race Condition. Okay, I said this was the 7th race condition lab. It's technically not, it's part of the File Upload Vulnerabilities category, but it was added to the Security Academy at the same time as the new race conditions topic, and I didn't have room for File Upload Vulnerabilities in the thumbnail, so let's just go with race conditions. I'm not going to recap what race condition vulnerabilities are because we've just done 6 videos in those. I'd recommend you go back and watch those or redo the labs if you're not too sure. But it's been a while since we did the file upload vulnerabilities category. Maybe you haven't done it yet or you want a quick recap. So let me just say that file upload vulnerabilities occur when a website allows users to upload files without sufficiently validating things like the name, the type, the contents, or the size. So let's say they fail to validate the name. Perhaps you could upload a file that has some kind of command injection in it. So maybe the file is later processed on the server. And by putting in a semicolon and then some like reverse shell command, maybe that'll be triggered at some point. Or maybe you fail to validate the size. So a really big file could be uploaded. And if you do that multiple times, or if you upload a file that's big enough, perhaps you can cause some kind of denial of service. Or the most dangerous impact really is the content. So let's say you have a profile image upload page, and by failing to validate the contents of the file and make sure it's actually an image, so validating like the magic signature, the file extension, things like that, by failing to do that, attackers could potentially upload a malicious script like a PHP file. In this case, you can see it's calling system ID, but that could be something malicious, maybe a reverse shell that gives the attacker control of the system. So the file upload vulnerabilities category covers a lot of different techniques that can be used to exploit file uploads. So even if developers put in some protections, quite often they can be bypassed with some clever tricks. I'll not go through that now. Let's just focus on the race conditions lab and jump right into it. Modern frameworks are more battle hardened against file upload vulnerability attacks. They generally don't upload files directly to the intended destination on the file system. Instead, they'll take precautions like uploading to a temporary sandbox directory first and randomizing the file name to avoid overwriting existing files. They then perform validation on this temporary file and only transfer it to its destination once it's deemed safe to do so. That said, developers sometimes implement their own processing of file uploads independently of any framework. Not only is this fairly complex to do, it can also introduce race conditions that enable an attacker to completely bypass the most robust validation. For example, some websites upload the file directly to the main file system and then remove it again if it doesn't pass the validation. This kind of behavior is typical in websites that rely on antivirus software and the like to check for malware. This may only take a few milliseconds, but the short time that the file exists on the server, the attacker can potentially still execute it. These vulnerabilities are extremely subtle, making them difficult to detect during black box testing unless you can find a way to leak the relevant source code. Okay, with the background stuff out of the way, let's take a look at the lab. The description says, this lab contains a vulnerable image upload function. Although it performs robust validation on any files that are being uploaded, it's possible to bypass this validation entirely by exploiting a race condition in the way it processes them. To solve the lab, upload a basic PHP web shell and then use it to exfiltrate the contents of the file home Carlos secret. Submit the secret using the button provided in the lab banner. And that's it. We have some credentials to log in with. We've got a potential hint that we can check if we get stuck, and then we've got the solution as well. It's been a little while since I did this lab, so I can't quite remember if there's any tricky steps in it, so let's see if I get stuck. It is an expert lab, so I guess maybe there might be some tricky elements to it. Let's go and log in with the credentials they gave, and we can upload our email, and we can add an avatar, which is obviously interesting to us. It's normally a good idea to just check the standard functionality before you try anything malicious. So I'm just going to go into my pictures and grab the profile picture that I have here, click upload, and we'll just see how it works. So it tells us the directory this has been sent to. This is important because if we do upload a malicious shell, then we want to be able to execute it by directly accessing it, and we need to know where it is and what it's called in order to do that. So let's first of all make sure that we can actually access that. If I go to avatars, it says not found, so that's not right. Let me go back to my account. Let me right click it and open a new tab. And this time it gives us the full directory. So it's actually files/avatars/crypto. And that means I know what to try now whenever we upload our shell. So let's go back and let me just copy over a shell first of all. So I've got a web shells directory here and a shell.php in it. Let me open that up. And I think this just has a get command. So at the moment, it'll just take a get parameter, but let's change this. And first of all, we can just do an ls and just see, do we get, oh, sorry, I need to take out the get parameter. So just call in system ls, and then we could change this to print something else afterwards. In fact, I'm not going to do that because then I'm going to have to upload multiple shells. I'm just going to take a copy of this and let's just straight up just print this out. So we know where it is, we know what we need to exfiltrate, let's just do cat. And there we go, we'll save that. I'm not going to try and change the file extension or the magic signature or anything like that because we don't care about those protections. Even if it does blacklist our file extension, what we're trusting is that it's going to store it for a few milliseconds, long enough to scan it for viruses or to check the file extension or something like that. And in that time, we're going to quickly try to access it. So let me do upload. Click upload and it says, oh, actually, so we cannot upload it. Or maybe it's giving us this error message, but it's still uploading it for a couple of seconds until it checks that. So let's go ahead. I'll change this to shell.php. It's not there, which you would expect, but we want to try this as a race condition. So let's go to our repeater, or rather, let's send these requests to our repeater. So where was the post request? Here's my post request with the JPEG. So where is there we go. Here's the one with the shell. I'm going to send that to the repeater, and then I'm going to send this one that's doing the get request to the repeater as well. And let's try this. Let's do, we'll add them to the group. So create tab group, we'll call it race. We'll add both of these here and set the color. And there we go. So we're going to upload it, and then we're going to very quickly try to access it. I'm first of all going to do this and send it in a sequence in separate connections. Just want to see what happens. Okay, so it wasn't found. This took 112 milliseconds, and the first one took 613. So that would kind of make sense, I guess. Let us try and do that again in a single connection. Okay, same problem. Let's try and do in parallel. And there we go. This time we get back our response. So that took 100 milliseconds to come back, and the other one took 548, but I guess the timing on the back end was just enough. Let me try and do it a few times, just see, okay, the second time didn't work, the third time did work, fourth time didn't work, fifth time didn't work. All right, so we got like 3 out of 6 there. But what you could do is just create more of these. So if we now did like 4 of these, then that one's coming back in 86. Oh, they're all coming back in the same amount of time, but that's how we can do this. Now, I will note that the official solution, let's check now, the hint was giving us a source code, so you can actually go and try and see how this is working. We've got this check viruses function, so it's temporarily moving it to the avatars directory, and then it's checking for viruses, and if it does have a virus, or if it's malicious, it's then going to unlink it. But by that stage, it's too late because we've exploited the race condition. They also mentioned that you could solve this by just sending the request quickly enough in burp repeater. Let me actually go back and do that. Let's do send in separate connections. Let me do it a couple of times. That didn't work. That also didn't work. Let's try and do it as a single connection. Okay, they didn't work, but the single packet attack does work anyway. But they actually solved it with burp intruder. Turbo intruder. So you can basically use the script. We've been through these scripts quite a few times in these labs. So something quite similar. They're using a post request to upload the file, and then a get request to try and access the file, and then they just queue these and try to access it multiple times. Anyway, that's it. Let's go and actually solve the lab. We'll take a copy of the... Oh, I need to get it again. Single packet attack. And then grab a copy of this. Submit the solution, and there we go. So that is how we can solve the 7th and final race condition lab, or the new file upload vulnerabilities lab, depending on how you want to spin it. And it's always good to check the official solution. I mention this all the time, but even if you solve a lab very quickly, you know exactly how to solve it. Always have a look at the hint and the official solution afterwards to see if you can learn a new trick, or how to do something differently anyway. And next week, we'll be starting a new topic, so you can leave a comment and let us know what you think that's going to be, and what you would like the next topic to be after that. Finally, let me just recommend that you sign up to the Intigriti platform if you want to try and find some race condition vulnerabilities or file upload vulnerabilities and get paid for it. This is a good place to start. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Thanks.